Among the things that we are speaking of, and that is belief in Allah, the first concept, as an introduction to this, the importance of this principle needs to be understood. The first principle of Aqeedah is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the most important principle of belief and action. And it is the focal point of Islam, and it is the essence of the Quran Kareem. We would not be exaggerating if we said that the whole of the Quran speaks about this belief, because the Quran either speaks directly about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His names, His attributes, His actions, as in Ayatul Kursi or in Surah Ikhlas, or it calls mankind to worship Him alone with no partner or associate, and to give up the worship of false gods, all of which has to do with telling about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling for the fulfillment of our duties towards Him, and forbidding the direction of worship to anyone else. Or it commands us to obey Him and forbids us to disobey Him, which are the obligations of faith. Or it tells us about the people of faith and the honor that was bestowed upon them in this world and how they are rewarded in the hereafter. This is the reward of the people who believe in Allah. Or it tells us about the disbelievers and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate them in this world and what He will do to them in the hereafter, in the abode of punishment. This is the punishment for turning away from belief. So the entire Quran Kareem speaks about belief in Allah. This explains why we find that Allah is mentioned in the Quran Kareem by one or another of His names and attributes 10,062 times. On every page of the Quran, He is mentioned approximately 20 times on average. We can say that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in relation to all the other principles and minor matters of faith is like the root of a tree in relation to its trunk and branches, the example that we had given previously. It is the basis of all other principles, the foundation of the religion. The more a person has faith in Allah, the more he progresses in Islam. The issues of belief in Allah, the issue of this topic, which we will examine and discuss, inshallah, in our following discussions are as follows. Firstly, we will examine the evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists and refute the argument that have been raised in this respect. Secondly, we will learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is achieved in two ways in the Quran Kareem. Understanding the wonders in creation, which point towards the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and the perfection of His creation. Studying the verses of the Quran Kareem, which speaks directly of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His essence, His names, His attributes, and His actions. And thirdly, we will affirm that Allah alone is the only one to be worshipped, with no partner or associate, and reject anything else that is worshipped instead of Him. And fourthly, we will look at the history of belief in the divinity, and examine what has been said on this topic. Inshallah, this is as an introduction to our next topic, which we will discuss in our future discussions. Jazakumullahu khair wa ahsanul jaza. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قال يا قوم إني لكم نذير مبين أن اعبدوا الله واتقوه وأطيعون يغفر لكم من ذنوبكم ويؤخركم إلى أجل مسمى إن أجل الله إذا جاء لا يؤخر لو كنتم تعلمون